Revealed. The haunted Alaskan sisters who lured 17 miners into a snowy fate and devour them, in the hushed darkness of the Alaskan wilderness. Whispers of a family curse echoed through the frozen air. Outside their cabin, snow fell like a shroud, thick and heavy, wrapping the world in silence. Inside, 28-year-old Lisa clutched her younger sister Mia close, feeling a familiar sense of dread. It was winter again, and this year, the chill transported fear. Miners had gone missing, vanishing right beneath the icy snowscape, sparking talk of ghosts and curses that haunted their bloodline. The flickering glow of the fire barely warmed the bone-deep cold that seeped through the walls. Flickers of light danced on Mia's face, revealing her youthful spirit even in the darkest times. But Lisa was scared. Each night, the howling winds sounded more like banshees crying out for the lost, demanding sacrifices. "No one is coming for us," she muttered to herself, fearing the world beyond their refuge. The whispered conversations of the townsfolk grew into suspicion. Fingers pointed at the sisters as if they were witches, somehow linked to the tragedies unfolding. A chill crept up her spine. Then came the night when the wind carried something else entirely, a faint, eerie whisper that curled through the air, slithering into their home. Lisa's heart raced as she peered into the shadows, trying to rationalize the terror. It was just the wind, wasn't it? Footprints materialized one morning outside their door, trailing off into the thick of the woods. Lisa's blood ran cold. They shouldn't be there. They weren't alone, and she feared what was hiding in the shadows. Desperation grew amongst the townsfolk. Lisa watched as the local official shrugged off their concerns, insisting the work must go on. But with each funeral, the air became heavier, tainted with grief and anger. Local families shouted names, blaming the sisters as panic festered. What had their parents done? What unholy pact had they kept secret? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. That night, a snowstorm howled around their cabin, isolating them from the outside world. As Lisa and Mia huddled together, the sudden knocking startled them. A frantic family had appeared, hollow-eyed and desperate, seeking answers as their loved one had become yet another ghost buried in the snow. They accused Lisa of hiding truths, bringing up secrets she never dared to acknowledge. Terror pooled in the pit of her stomach. Mia looked at her, concern etched on her youthful face. Lisa felt panic rising. She wanted to keep her sister safe, but at what cost? The winds howled more fiercely now, drowning out reason. One by one, the lights flickered as the whispers grew louder, an insatiable hunger clawing at the darkness, threatening to pull them into something far more sinister. As shadows danced in the corners, Lisa turned, and in that moment of fear, she saw a fleeting silhouette at the window. The figure vanished into the swirling snow. Breath caught in her throat. What had she truly allowed to take root within their home? Were they at risk of becoming just another bitter story whispered about in the chilling nights? What atrocities lay hidden in their bloodline, lurking just below the surface, waiting to resurface? The sisters stood frozen, caught at the edge of a dawning realization that could shatter their world. The wind battered the cabin with a renewed force, sounding like anguished wails from the abyss. Lisa's breaths turned shallow, anxiety constricting her chest. She glanced at Mia, whose wide eyes reflected terror against the flickering firelight. Did you see that? Mia's voice trembled, small and frail against the storm's rage. Lisa nodded, her heart hammering. It was real. Whatever had peered through their window wasn't just a trick of the light. It was out there, stalking, watching. Suddenly, a sharp knock rang out once more, louder this time, echoing like a death knell. Lisa bolted from her chair. "Stay here," she whispered, desperation lacing her command. As she approached the door, dread clawed at her mind. Who could it be? The locals, seeking revenge? Or something worse, something that knew their past? She hesitated, fingers hovering over the latch, envisioning the syringes of rage and grief that could be waiting. The wind paused, holding its breath, and for the briefest moment, the world outside seemed still. But then came a voice, faint yet haunting, slicing through the stillness like ice. "Help us, please." It was barely more than a whisper, twisted with despair. Lisa's heart sank. Memories flooded her mind, shrouded in shadow. She had lived in this isolation long enough to understand the stories, the miners, the 100-year curse. They had never returned, yet their families still screamed for answers. She opened the door a fraction, just enough to peer into the white abyss. What she saw made her recoil. A figure stood there, bloodied and broken, twisted in a morbid semblance of humanity. It was a man cloaked in the remains of winter. He stepped closer. "They're coming for you," he rasped, his voice a chilling echo of despair. Lisa slammed the door, heart racing. "No, we're locked away. We're safe." But the sound of the howling wind mocked her. Mia clung to her, a small anchor in deepening seas of madness. What did he mean? Who's coming for us? Just then, the lights flickered wildly and the fire dimmed. Shadows rippled along the walls like something alive. Mia trembled, and Lisa looked at her, eyes wide with fear. In the blink of an eye, the darkened corners seemed to pulse, shadows growing thicker. Suddenly, an icy hand pressed against the window, grimy and pale, leaving a handprint that glowed faintly as if infused with a lingering life. "No!" Lisa screamed, stepping back, dragging Mia with her. They backed away, hearts pounding, the laughter of the wind transforming into a chorus of voices echoing chillingly through the cabin. "You can't hide. You belong to us." The sounds merged into a cacophony of rage and longing, their words intentional darts aiming toward their sanity. A heavy feeling of inevitability settled deep in Lisa's gut. What if they weren't just haunting them from outside? What if they had already taken root within their very souls? Driven by instinct, she grabbed Mia, heading for the back of the cabin. They needed to escape, but where could they run? Outside lay the endless darkness, and lurking in the shadows were the spirits of those lost miners. As the wind howled louder, they reached the back door. Lisa turned the handle and it wouldn't budge. Panic spiraled in her chest. Each attempt tugged harder at the anxiety draining her strength. "Lisa, please," Mia cried out, pulling on her arm. The whispers turned into a shriek, the air electric with an unseen threat. They were coming, they were hungry. The sisters steeled themselves for what stood outside, but the door trembled as something pressed against it from the other side. And in that precarious moment, an omnipresent, familiar feeling slipped through the icy cracks of the door, a sickening realization. The dread wasn't just born of the outside whispers. It ran deep, wired in their veins, and perhaps it had never let them go at all. In that unsettling breath, a figure's shape began to materialize against the door. 1 foot in the snow and 1 foot in the suffocating darkness. The sisters waited, hearts pounding in a primal rhythm, uncertainty coursing through their veins. What would they allow to cross the threshold? What atrocities lay ahead? The lights flickered once more, and shadows danced ever closer. How long could they keep their secret hidden? Then came the sounds of scratching, clawing to get in. Would they have the strength to confront the horrors of their past? Or would they surrender to the age-old curse of their lineage? The door shuddered violently, and Lisa felt a primal surge of terror electrifying her spine. "It's going to break in," she shouted, her voice strained. Mia's grip tightened around Lisa's arm, her fear palpable, a raw energy that fed into the chaos swirling around them. "What do we do?" she whimpered, eyes darting toward the windows where shadows clawed eagerly at the wood, searching for any weakness. "Get something heavy," Lisa yelled, looking frantically around the dimly lit cabin. The walls seemed to throb, the very structure alive with dread. She couldn't afford to break under the pressure. There, a heavy iron skillet hung on the wall, something they could use to fend off whatever was coming. Mia scrambled for it, her small hands just barely grasping the cold handle. Lisa turned back to the door, feeling an urgency unlike anything she'd ever known. The scratching intensified, nails digging into the wood as if trying to find a chink in their defenses. "Stand back," Lisa warned as she grabbed the heavy skillet, letting the weight fill her hands with a sense of power, however fleeting it may be. She positioned herself in front of the door, ready to strike. The door rattled again, the hinges creaking under the strain. "We're not afraid of you," Lisa shouted, though her voice wavered on the edge of uncertainty. And then, abruptly, it stopped. Silence poured over the cabin like fog rolling into a forgotten graveyard. The absence of sound was unsettling, like a predator's pause before the kill. Lisa held her breath, straining to listen for any hint of movement. "What if it went away?" Mia whispered, hope threading through her small voice. Lisa shook her head. "Still there. I can feel it." A cold sweat trickled down her back, thoughts of the miner's ghost flickering in her mind like a dying flame. The wind howled outside, a mournful wail that urged them to remember the stories, the tales woven from grief and sorrow. They weren't safe here. Suddenly, a crash. The window shattered, splintering into 1,000 shards that danced through the air. Lisa gasped, stepping back into Mia, who clamped her eyes shut, squeezing her sister's hand as if it were a lifeline. A figure slipped through the broken glass, moving gracefully, impossibly, as if the shards were a mere suggestion. It was another of the miners, eyes hollow, skin stretched tightly over bone, drenched in shadows. "You can't run," he rasped, voice rising into a chilling crescendo. Lisa raised the skillet, heart racing, but in that moment, she froze. The visage before them wasn't just a being of suffering. It bore their mother's face, twisted and stark, a reflection of something lost. "Mom?" she whispered, hardly able to breathe. "Lisa!" Mia screamed, shaking her sister. "Don't listen. It's not her." The apparition advanced, voice imploring like a siren's call. "Help us finish what you started, set us free." Frantic terror ignited within Lisa. "No!" she yelled, slashing the skillet in front of her, the metal ringing as it met the air. "You're not real." The phantom halted, eyes narrowing, a deep rumble echoing around the cabin as if the walls themselves were responding. "You have been chosen. We will never let go." Lisa felt a conscious tug, like fists squeezing her heart. She staggered back, and Mia tugged her again, forcing her to take a step away from it. "We have to go. Now." Instinct kicked in. Lisa reached for the back door again, slamming her shoulder against it, desperate frustration simmering. "Open! Damn it!" But instead, something cold grabbed her from behind. A hand wrapped around her ankle, pulling her to the floor. Screaming, she fought, lashing out with the skillet. "Get off me! Get away!" Mia screamed, her small voice lost in the cacophony of terror. The cabin felt smaller, like the walls were closing in, and Lisa's senses shrieked that they were not alone. Something lingered in the air, yearning for their fragility. Every whispered moment bled into chaos, and the shadows closed in tighter. "Where will you hide?" The voices hissed, each word slicing at Lisa's sanity. "You are ours." As the darkness enveloped them, Lisa's heart raced. What had they done to deserve this? What awaited in the depths of their family's past? There was no way to hide now. The cursed truth was coming, and it wouldn't take long for them to face it head-on. Just then, another crash echoed from outside, a thunderous sound that sent a shiver through the cabin. The sisters turned toward the sound, breathless with dread. "Lisa!" Mia gasped. "What's out there?" The door they thought secure pulsed once more, but now it was different. With fear ensnaring their hearts, they realized that the horror might be not only within but also beyond the threshold of their fading sanctuary. And then came a soft, chittering sound, like 1,000 tiny claws skittering across the ground, warping toward them in the quiet, creeping closer. What unspeakable horror had they summoned? And would they find the courage to confront their family's dark legacy? The cabin trembled as the chittering grew louder, an unsettling chorus of claws scratching against the wooden floorboards. Lisa's heart raced in sync with the frantic sounds. What was coming? A wave of dread surged through her as she turned to Mia, panic flaring in her sister's wide eyes. "Back to the kitchen," Lisa shouted, the words bursting out in a desperate urgency. They stumbled backward, keeping their eyes on the door, every instinct screaming at them to run. But they were trapped in this nightmare, both of them held captive by fear and the chilling memory of what had taken shape before them. With the skillet gripped tightly in her hands, Lisa tried to gather her thoughts. They needed a plan, but nothing coherent formed in her mind. The shadows around them writhed as the chittering intensified, echoing like a deranged symphony. She could almost feel the darkness wrapping around her, seeking to smother any hint of hope as they reached the kitchen. Lisa noticed a set of heavy pots hanging near the stove. "Get those," she instructed Mia, urging her to grab anything that could serve as another weapon. The clang of metal against metal rang like an alarm as Mia yielded to the mounting terror and pulled them down, launching them into Lisa's hands. "Why won't it just go away?" Mia cried, the tremor in her voice rising like a wave threatening to crash over them. "I don't know," Lisa shouted back, the desperation clawing at her throat. Memory flickered again, tales that their grandmother used to tell about the miners, about lost souls bound to this land, cursed never to find peace. "We have to face it. Show it we're not afraid." The sound grew louder, an unnerving rhythm, almost taunting. The kitchen table scraped against the floor as an unseen force heaved itself into the room, and the sisters glanced past the pot's edge toward the door, watching as dark shapes spilled into the faint light of the cabin. Lisa's breath hitched. They were small and fast, darting between the shadows, claws glimmering with an unnatural sheen. In their eyes, a multitude of eyes, there was something unsettlingly human yet utterly devoid of life, calling forth the deepest fears in Lisa's heart. "Stand together," she yelled, pulling Mia close, her grip on the skillet firm. Then one of the shadows lunged, a creature small but filled with malice, and landed on the table. It shrieked, the sound shattering the last remnants of hope as Lisa swung the skillet down. It made contact, and the creature crumpled, oozing a viscous black substance that pooled on the wood. But the victory was short-lived. The others surged forward, their many limbs clawing at the sisters, their shrieks mingling into an unbearable cacophony. "They want to take us," Mia screamed, her voice slicing through the noise. Lisa could feel the weight of dread crash over her. The room spun as shadows swarmed closer, the walls narrowing dangerously. "What do we do?" she gasped, heart pounding. "Remember the stories? About the mine, about our past?" Mia shouted, trying to pull Lisa back from the brink of panic. "The past," Lisa echoed, suddenly struck by a thought. "They want us to understand." But before she could voice another word, a piercing scream erupted from Mia's lips as one of the small creatures clambered up her leg, biting down. "Get it off, Lisa, please." Instinct took over. Lisa swung again, missing, as panic settled fully in. She could barely think, the noise drowning out everything. Her own fear was immobilizing. Yet, somewhere deep down, a flicker of determination shone through. They wouldn't go down without fighting as shadows crowded around them. Their eyes burning with rage, Lisa steadied herself one last time. The history cursed as it was might be the only chance they had. With grit pushing her forward, she planned to confront not just the creatures but the legacy of terror that had brought them to this point. "Then let us end this," she growled, defiance igniting in her chest, ready to claim their family's history as the key to their escape. But in that moment of bravery, the walls shook again, and something far larger than the little creatures loomed just beyond the door. What terror awaited them from the outside? What more had their family's legacy churned up from the depths of darkness? The fight was far from over. The rumbling grew louder, reverberating through the timbers of the cabin, shaking the very ground beneath them. Lisa's heart pounded in rhythm with the terrifying noise. It was a force unlike anything they had faced. The memories of their grandmother's chilling tales rushed back, mingling with a dawning realization. The darkness was more than just spirits of the mine. It was a force bound to the very earth they stood on. Then it happened. The door burst open, flinging itself off its hinges. A rush of icy wind swept through the room, pulling at Lisa and Mia as they stumbled back, gasping for air. Through the cloud of cold mist, a silhouette emerged, hulking and nightmarish. "Stay back!" Lisa shouted, raising her skillet, but her voice trembled with fear. The form looming before them was not like the little creatures. This was a thing of nightmare, a grotesque amalgamation of shadow and a once human shape, twisted into something grotesque. The creature's eyes flickered, glowing with a predatory hunger. It seemed to feast on their fear, feeding off the terror swelling in their chests. "We are bound by the lost," it crooned, voice slithering like a serpent through the cold air. "You cannot change what has been written." What did it mean? In that moment, Lisa's mind raced. The tales had warned of a deeper connection to this land, a connection that tied not just the miners, but their entire family, to the darkness lurking beneath the surface. Mia's hands trembled at her side, fear freezing her voice. Lisa clutched the skillet with shaking fingers, knowing they had to do something before this thing consumed them. "Think, Mia, what did Grandma tell us? How did they fight back?" The words echoed in Mia's mind, piecing together the fragments of that childhood lore. If we remember them, their names, maybe we can free them?" She stammered, hope flickering in her eyes. "This is about the miners. Lisa, they want to be recognized. Then let us remember." Lisa shouted over the cacophony of chittering growing louder once more. "Shout their names." "Mason, Tyler, Eleanor," Mia cried out, the names spilling from her lips like a desperate prayer. As each name echoed in the room, the creature's visceral form seemed to shudder, responding to their words, perhaps being forced to acknowledge the lives lost. But the smaller figures surged forward again, clawing at them with renewed fury. "The miners are trapped. We can save their souls," Lisa yelled, adrenaline coursing through her as she pushed back against the swarm, her skillet swinging wildly. "Henry, Peter, Sam," Mia continued, her voice gaining strength. Their cries began to harmonize with the chittering that surrounded them. Rising above the din, Grayson, Judith, Marla, another creature, lunged at Lisa. She swung hard, connecting with a sickening thud. It fell, emitting a gurgling wail that echoed the names of the miners in its death throes. As the names filled the air, the shadows momentarily receded. But the larger creature stood unfazed, its grotesque face flickering in and out of view each time it emerged. It seemed even angrier, more desperate. "Fight, sisters!" It again taunted, "You will never be free." But Lisa felt a strange warmth surge through her, an echo of the spirits resting within her. "We can defy you," Lisa shouted, seizing the moment. "Your curse will be broken." With courage somehow routed from their family's legacy, they screamed the names louder, challenging the very essence that haunted their bloodline. Each name seemed to pierce the cold air, forcing the shadows back further, creating space for a glimmer of hope. But as Lisa stepped forward, the room shook violently again, and the menacing figure surged, forcing shadows to funnel into a dark vortex that threatened to engulf them both. "Hold on, Mia," Lisa cried, their eyes filled with a terror that bordered on hopelessness. Was this how it ended? Would they be swallowed whole by the very darkness meant to consume their family? Suddenly, there was an ear-splitting screech, and in the heart of the storm, something snapped. Would it be salvation, or another twist of fate to terrify them into madness? The chilling howl hung in the air like a threat, and in the chaos, a name was whispered, one they had not yet spoken. What terror lay in that name, and would they dare to utter it? The room trembled, the very air thickening with dread. A swirling darkness pressed down against them, coiling like a serpent ready to strike. Lisa and Mia felt the weight of the unuttered name, a name that echoed in the back of their minds, taunting them with its presence. "What was that?" Mia gasped, her breath visible in the frigid atmosphere. "I don't know," Lisa replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "But we have to." The larger creature lunged forward, its grotesque maw stretching wide. "You dare to invoke the final name?" it hissed, swirling shadows lapping at its feet like smoke. "You will wish you hadn't." In that moment of primal fear, Lisa realized why they hadn't spoken it. There was more to it. Something unspeakably dark. We have to. We can't let it win, she shouted, more to herself than to Mia, who looked ready to crumble. Who is it? Mia pleaded, panic bubbling in her throat. The memory clicked. Their grandmother's voice echoed through the fog of terror. Beware the name that binds the living to the dead. It is the anchor. An anchor, Lisa mumbled. It's more than just a name. It's a legacy. The storm in the room roared, crashing against their thoughts. The little creatures swarmed again, like hungry insects drawn to a flame. Dark tendrils slithered toward them, seeking to pull them into the chilling embrace of the abyss. Please, Mia shouted, clutching her sister's arm. What do we do? Say it. We have to break the curse. Lisa felt the warmth of the spirits growing stronger, a fierce determination igniting within them. The words flooded back, dark but necessary. Elias! The sound cut through the oppressive gloom like a knife. The large creature shrieked. Its monstrous figure jerked and hesitated, as if caught in the sudden sting of memories. You should not have spoken that name, it bellowed, rage coiling tighter than ever before. Shadows twisted like angry snakes, wrapped around the sisters' ankles, pulling them down. The ground beneath them seemed to split open. Keep going. Lisa yelled over the chaos, tugging at Mia's hand. Shout it again. Shout all their names. Elias, Mason, Tyler. Mia shouted, her voice fraying at the edges but undeterred. The larger creature quaked. Its spectral face wavered as the shadows shifted uncertainly. You are fools to summon that which binds the soil to the damned. It shrieked, pain threading through the anger. Dare we defy what lives in the depths? Lisa shouted, swinging the skillet again, desperate to clear a path. We are not afraid of you. And they shouted louder, weaving the names in frantic harmony, as if conjuring the very spirits who had been trapped for far too long. The cabin shook like a thunderstorm. Suddenly, a crack sliced through the air, and light sparked from somewhere deep in the shadows. It flickered like a distant star fighting against the encroaching darkness. What is that? Mia's voice trembled, a mix of hope and fear gripping her heart. It's them, Lisa yelled, her eyes wide as she felt the surge of energy. They're coming. They're finally coming to help. But the menacing creature roared again, an earth-shattering sound that drowned out everything. You cannot escape. You will forfeit your souls. The air thickened, and with another vicious jolt, the shadows twisted, forming a barrier around them. They pressed closer, suffocating the last remnants of light. Lisa felt her courage waning, the trembling beneath her skin growing too strong to ignore. Speak their names, she implored, her voice raw, sweat running slick down her back. We have to keep fighting. But with panic swirling around them, another name slipped from the dark caverns of her memory, one scrolled deep into her lineage, thick with horror. A name that could very well invoke a wrath far beyond the specter before them. Would you dare to say it? Mia shouted, desperation clouding her features. What if it calls to something we can't control? Lisa locked eyes with Mia, dread coiling in her belly. Would it be salvation or doom? We have no choice. It may be the only way. And just as the shadows closed in like a serpent, coiling around its prey, the sisters stood on the brink of a decision. What was lying in wait for them in the depths of darkness? And in that moment of terrifying choice, they would unlock a truth that could shatter everything they knew. With a shuddering breath, Lisa glanced into the abyss, where swirling shadows writhed like anguished spirits desperate for release. Her heart raced, pounding in her chest, each beat thick with dread. We need to do it. Now, she urged, her voice trembling as she nearly choked on the heaviness of fear. The creature loomed larger, its eyes flickering with a vile hunger, ready to feast on their hesitation. Mia's face twisted in conflict, fear etched deep in her features. But what if there's no time? We either stand and fight or get lost in the dark forever. Lisa shouted, feeling the cold tendrils wrap tighter around her legs, pulling her down. Taking a deep breath, Mia stared her sister in the eyes. She swallowed hard, steeling herself. Fine, then let us say it. Let us say the name. But deep within the turmoil, the name morphed and twisted in both their minds, chilling them to the bone. It echoed like a dark whisper, a forgotten story filled with dread that had haunted their family for generations. Yet in that moment, the sisters felt something shift within their core. Lucius Lisa breathed, feeling the name crawl from her throat like a reluctant ghost. The air around them shimmered, thin and electric, as if just uttering it had invoked ancient forces. The creature lurched, recoiling as though struck. You dare summon him? It howled, its visage quaking with rage. He is bound by blood. You know not the price. Mia's breath quickened, her body thrumming with both fear and power. What price? She cried, the shadows around her surging dangerously close. Years of torment, the beast rasped, eyes gleaming with malice that wove through the darkness. Bondage to that which can only ruin. A low rumble filled the air as the floor beneath them vibrated. The walls of the cabin shook, timber splintering and fracturing with an insistent crack. Desperation surged within them, twisting like a knife. We're already bound, Lisa screamed, summoning her strength to stay upright against the chaos. We won't let you take us. As if responding to her defiance, a thunderous wind whipped through the room, carrying the sense of wet earth and decay. The shadows twisted violently, clawing at their skin, hungry for the warmth of their life. Lucius will come, the creature hissed, the threat tasting bitter on its tongue. And when he does, an otherworldly howl echoed, slicing through the tumult, a sound that resonated deep within Lisa's chest. A ripple of light erupted from the corner of the room, fingers of warmth pushing back the cloying darkness. There, look, Mia shouted, pointing at the ephemeral glow piercing through the shadows. Her face lit up in disbelief. What is it? Breathless, they could hardly comprehend the glimmer. Was it the spirits of those they had called upon? Or was it even more dangerous? We have to reach it, Lisa cried, determined despite the fear clutching her heart. They clasped each other's hands, channeling the shared determination ignited by the names they had spoken. But the creature screamed, the sound twisting with raw fury. You cannot escape your fate. It lunged forward to block their path, darkness spilling like a flood from its gaping maw. Fear surged, primal and pulsing as they sprinted towards the light, ignoring the stinging shadows wrapping around their legs. What happens if we reach it? Mia yelled, her voice splintering under the weight of uncertainty. I don't know, Lisa shouted back. But we can't stay here. Just then, something shifted, and all at once, the shadow thrummed with a power that felt ancient. Lisa's stomach dropped as a resonant voice echoed, filling the space as they ran towards the light. Do you dare to awaken him? It boomed, the air vibrating around them as if the very cabin was alive. And in that moment, locked between the darkness and the light, the sisters realized they had stepped into something far beyond their understanding, a peril that could seal their fates forever. With one final push, they lunged towards the light, hearts racing. But what awaited them on the other side? Would it lead to salvation or their inevitable doom? They broke through the threshold of light, and for a brief moment, everything was silent. Then, a rush of air enveloped them, cool and intoxicating, a stark contrast to the suffocating darkness they'd fled. As they stumbled into the light, they found themselves not in safety, but in another realm. It was a twisted reflection of their world. The forest surrounding them twisted into grotesque shapes, trees contorted like gnarled fingers reaching towards a crimson sky. The ground pulsed beneath their feet, warm and alive, as whispers drifted through the air, fragments of broken words that seemed to claw at their sanity. What is this place? Mia's voice trembled. The shadows lingered at the edges as if reluctant to follow them into the light. But they weren't free yet. I don't know, but we have to keep moving, Lisa urged, glancing back. The monstrous creature stood at the edge of the flickering light, its eyes blazing with fury. Still coming. They sprinted into the depth of the strange landscape. The ground rippled with each step, challenging their balance. The sticky air felt thick, as if soaked in sorrow and despair. The whispers grew louder, swirling around them, wrapping tightly like a cocoon, urging them to listen to submit. "Flee, sisters. You cannot resist what has awoken," they cried, echoing with a combined voice that resonated in their minds. Each word layered with menace, promising dark revelations if they dared to linger. "What do they want?" Mia gasped, looking wild-eyed at her sister. Doubt pricked at her heart, a dark seed sprouting. "Just run," Lisa shouted, the resolve in her voice teetering on the edge of desperation. The glimmer of light ahead shimmered an oasis in a desert of nightmares, but the ground shifted, pulling at their feet like hands that beckoned them to stay as they hurried forward. They could hear the creature's anguished screams retreating, but they knew it would find another way, that it was clever, its dark maliciousness unyielding. They were locked in a race against an insatiable hunger that knew no bounds. Then, without warning, the landscape morphed again. The ground cracked open, revealing a maw of darkness below, filled with the echoes of long-lost souls. Lisa stumbled back, heart racing. "Look," Mia gasped, pointing to figures emerging from the darkness, pale and hollow-eyed, their mouths open in silent screams. "They're trapped." Something in Lisa's heart clenched. They are bound to this place just like we are." Mia shook her head fiercely. We can't help them. We don't know what's waiting for us." But Lisa stepped closer to the edge of the chasm, the whispers from the shadows tantalizing her thoughts. For a split second, she felt an overwhelming urge to leap forward, to reach out and pull these spectral figures to freedom. It was a deep instinct buried within her, beckoning her to save them, to become part of their tragic tale. "No," Mia grabbed her arm, the rage on her face mixed with horror. "We can't lose ourselves in this nightmare." Just then, the air trembled again, the shadows pulsated with renewed vigor, as if the very fabric of this realm reacted to their fears. "You called upon him," the whispers hissed, circling like vultures. "You will pay what's happening." Lisa cried, fear gripping her throat, panic squeezing her heart. "It's the price." Mia shouted over the echoing horror, eyes wide as spectral hands began to reach out for them. The sisters stood at the precipice of decision. Would they run from the plea of the tormented souls or risk their very existence to save them? Time twisted, seconds stretching into an eternity, and with the shadows clawing at their skin, Lisa felt the whisper tugging at her heart, revealing the true extent of their pact. "Mia, we have to decide now." Deep in the abyss, something stirred. The darkness swelled and thrashed, sending forth a chilling laugh that pierced through the chaos, resounding with an answer that neither of them could bear to acknowledge. What awaited them after that revelation? Would they defy fate or succumb to the temptation of the shadows? The choice loomed ahead, irrevocable and deadly. Lisa's breath came in quick, shallow gasps. The shadows writhed, pressing in around them, whispering urgent questions only she could hear. The trapped souls flailed within the abyss, their desperate eyes mirroring the horror of her own. Just beyond her, Mia stood frozen, her sister's normally fierce spirit now clouded with dread. "They're aware of us," Mia screamed, snapping Lisa from her trance. "We can't just stand here." The hands reached out from the dark, fragile, translucent fingers dancing just above the edge of the chasm. Their movements were jerky and erratic, like marionettes caught in a storm, yearning for connection. "Save us, help us," the tortured murmurs reached for Lisa, spreading tendrils of guilt and regret that laid thick in the air. "Lisa," Mia's voice sliced through the desperate longing. "Don't. It's a trap. We need to go now." But something deeper than logic pulled at Lisa, a connection that felt ancient. "They're suffering, Mia. We can't just leave them. Maybe leaving is how we survive," Mia shouted, tugging at her sister's arm. But Lisa felt a swell of darkness rise in her, the haunting power of the place clawing at her instincts. To save them, to yield, it tore at her like a promise made long ago. Suddenly, a weight crashed onto her shoulders. It pulled her down, anchoring her feet to the ground. The earth around them throbbed, drowning her mind in a haze of whispers, a sinister coalescence of sadness and despair. The colors of the sky deepened, the crimson swirling like blood in water, and the figures in the chasm began to shift. "Join us. Be one with us. You will never be alone again." They called to her, sweet and tempting. Shadows darted through the trees, igniting an eerie glow. Light flickered like forgotten dreams, weaving through the branches. Just then, the creature's voice pierced the air, fury dripping from every syllable. You defy me? You dare to turn away? The monstrous sound devoured the landscape, turning it into a nightmare. With every heartbeat, the ground quaked underfoot, rage flooding the space. Lisa's body stiffened as she fought against the invisible force binding her. We have to run, Mia cried, but chains of tight air squeezed around Lisa's throat, growing tighter, constricting. No, I can't leave them. The laughter of the beast scorned her, echoing in her mind. Foolish girl, you think their pain is yours to bear? They are lost. Let go. Its cold breath washed over her, igniting fear within her soul. Before she could resist, the predatory darkness surged from the chasm, curling and wrapping around Lisa's body. Her heart raced, survival instincts battling against an overwhelming tide of longing. She gasped, breath catching in her throat, feeling the weight of their despair suffocate her spirit. Mia, please. The words tumbled from her lips, trembling and raw, desperately clawing for the sister who was her only anchor in this madness. The creature's laughter grew louder, echoing off the twisted trees and flooding her senses. Listen to your sister. There is no saving them. Only your escape. Join me, we can rule this realm. Mia dug her nails into Lisa's arm, pulling with all her strength. Fight, Lisa. We're stronger together. Don't let it take you. But as Lisa's vision blurred and shadows closed in around her, she faced a shocking truth. Tormented souls craved freedom. But what did that really mean? A chilling thought hovered, maybe freedom was just another illusion. Lisa, Mia shouted, but the abyss taunted back, returning her voice in a ghostly echo. Then, with a raw scream, the creature lunged forward, and reality shifted. The world cracked, pieces scattering like shattered glass. Everything fell away, leaving them suspended in a void of darkness. A chilling abyss where nothing mattered but their choices. Would they choose the chains that held them back? Or would they rise against the creature lurking in shadows? As the abyss yawed open, endless dread poured from it, threatening to swallow them whole. The sisters' hands tightened. What would they cling to when faced with eternity? As the darkness swelled around them, the clarity of choice stripped bare their souls, forcing them into a moment of ultimate reckoning. Would they flee into the unknown or plunge deeper into despair? The silence hung heavy, the choice twisted into a twisted knot, each second stretching into infinity. What awaited them as they danced on the edge of peril? The void swallowed them whole. Gaping darkness surrounded Lisa and Mia, wrapping around their souls like strands of ice. Each beat of their hearts pulsed with uncertainty, swirling emotions layered thick with fear and despair. But deep down, a flicker of defiance ignited within Lisa. Mia, she gasped, clutching her sister's hand tighter. We can't give in to it. Remember what we have to do. Mia's eyes shone with determination despite the radiating shadows, and she nodded fiercely, their bond electrifying in the oppressive gloom. We have to fight. We have to remember why we're here. The names sat heavy on their lips, a chorus of lost souls begging for recognition. Names they had almost forgotten in the chaos, but not today. Today they would set the lost free. Start, Lisa shouted, her voice echoing like thunder in the depth of despair. Say their names. Elias, Mia cried, her voice steadying with strength. Mason, Tyler, Judith, Marla. Each name burst forth like crackling lightning, illuminating the darkness with renewed hope. The walls of the void shook, shadows trembling and writhing against the surge of names, the energy coursing like a river of liberated spirits. The darkness faltered, revealing glimpses of the anguished faces trapped within. Another shadow surged forward, twisting with rage. You think this will save you? It snarled, a marionette of fury dancing in the air. You are foolish to tempt fate. We are done being foolish. Lisa shouted back, the warmth of resolve flooding her chest as she recalled the tales of the miners and their sorrow. We challenge you. You will no longer have power over us. Elias, Mia shouted again, her voice fierce. The curse ends tonight. The ground trembled beneath their feet, an upheaval sending reverberations through the shadows. Light erupted from the fissures in the dark, blistering with life. The air thickened with unseen energy, an awakening of memory, both theirs and the ones they called upon. The monstrous creature roared, a sound of sheer desperation. You cannot defy me. You will pay for this recklessness. But with each name they spoke, the chains binding the lost began to shatter. Faces flickered in and out of existence, the shadows pulling away, retreating into the corners like mist dissipating in the dawn. A harmonized wailing of despair rang out from the shadows, twisting into a coherent sound. Help us remember us. The transition was beautiful and painful, a melody rising from despair to hope as the long-lost miners began to burst forth from the darkness, their ethereal forms glowing against the void. Flashes of memories played across their faces: laughter, sorrow, life, and the sisters cried out with love and compassion. We remember you. We release you. They shouted in unison, voices ringing like a bell through the chaos. With each echo of remembrance, shadows dissolved into streams of light, washing over the sisters. The last of the darkness quaked, and in a final surge, the creature lunged for them, a grotesque shape sharpening into focus, its fury almost tangible. No! It shrieked, plummeting closer. You cannot escape your fates. But it was too late. The combined energy of the miners surged up toward the monster, a wave of light engulfing the creature whole, and Lisa felt a profound warmth wrapping around her heart. Colors twisted brilliantly, a brilliant explosion of hope breaking free at last. Together, Lisa whispered, squeezing Mia's hand, we will embrace what comes. As the light surged around them, it engulfed them, flooding every dark corner of their souls with warmth, healing the fractures of their family's history. The monstrous entity shrieked one last time before fading into oblivion, its dark power no match for the strength of love, unity, and remembrance. They stood in silence, the shimmering light casting a gentle glow over landscapes both familiar and strange. The air was now a warm embrace, welcoming and inviting. At their feet, the miners' freed souls of their ancestors smiled, nodding in gratitude. Mia and Lisa breathed in fresh air, light washing over their skin, filling them with a renewed spirit. Those who had been lost were finally free, and the curse that had haunted their family was lifted as the reality around them shifted back to the familiar site of their cabin, nestled in the Alaskan snow. The sisters embraced tightly, tears glistening in their eyes. We did it, Mia whispered, a tremor of disbelief lacing her voice. Yes, Lisa said, her own heart swelling with emotion. We finally broke the cycle. Outside, under the vast night sky, stars glittered brightly, almost as if the universe itself celebrated their victory over the darkness. We honor their memory, and our past will not control us any longer. Hand in hand, the sisters stepped forward, ready to face whatever new path awaited them with hope, together. And as the wind whispered through the trees, a sacred promise filled the air, one of freedom, remembrance, and the boundless love that would never falter again. So, if you've enjoyed this journey into the depths of darkness and ultimately into light, you need to subscribe now. Don't miss our coming exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to help us feed the algorithm. Let your voice be heard. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about this epic conclusion. And do not wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful end. Your support means everything, and only the true fans understand the importance of rallying behind the channel. Let us carry this flame forward together.